Today is June the 13th, 2016. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with the library here at Oklahoma State University. And today I am with Bianca Boyd. And she is the coordinator of Student Support Services in the university's Division of Institutional Diversity.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
You got it perfect.
And this interview is part of our O State Stories Oral History Project. So we'll be talking a little bit about Bianca's journey to OSU and why she's here, and a little bit into her wellness journey. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you for having me. It's so awesome.
Well, let's begin with learning a little bit about you. When and where were you born?
Okay, so I was born December 19th, 1987 in Heidelberg, Germany. So that is, I guess, my birthplace. My parents were in the military, and so I just happened to come at a very interesting time. I don't think it was planned that way, but yeah, and so that's where I was born, but I consider St. Louis, Missouri my home.
Okay. And which parent was in the military?
Both my mother and my father.
Both of them?
Yes,
Okay.
in the Army.
And you want to talk anything about their positions or what took
They
them
were
there?
both, yeah, so I think my mom is originally from California, and so she just really had that very much like, kind of free spirit, wanted to go and travel, and, my dad was a little different. He's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so kind of a very practical guy, and for him, like, the military was like just very practical, and so they got together and they got married, and so I'm the middle child, and I come from a very, very long line of family that served in the armed forces. My brothers are in the Air Force. That's just kind of what we do. I am different because I didn't do that. I think having the opportunity, I had the privilege to kind of move around, but I was so young, I kind of didn't remember, but I get to see all these amazing pictures of me being a little person and being in all these different places, and so that was really, really cool. And I stayed in Pine Bluff, Arkansas with my grandmother because my parents were both in the military and they were both gone. And so I had the opportunity to have some amazing countryside living and very simple living, and then eventually moving to St. Louis when I was 8 was definitely different from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. But that was just really, really good, and so yeah.
Oh, why St. Louis? What took them there?
Okay, so my father, that's where his home is. Well, I guess kind of his home. His mother was living there, and so he wanted to be back with his mom, and so my mom was like, okay, that's where we're gonna go, and that's where we kind of ended up. So
Interesting. They're coast to coast and in the middle.
Yes, in the middle. So yeah.
And you're the middle child?
I'm the middle child. We have a blended family, and so I am the only girl from my mother. So I have 4 brothers, and I am it. And so, that is amazing sometimes, and sometimes not so much, because I'm, the responsible one, the more caring one, and so like that's very interesting to see how that kind of plays out. But then I also have 2 younger sisters from my dad, and they're amazing, and one is going off to college, and the other one is a senior in high school, and so yeah. Big family, to me anyway. I think it's big. So,
So
4.
So 7 of you?
Yes,
7 of you.
yes. So there were like no leftovers in our house, like ever. Like I just learned the concept of that when I moved out, and I was like, I cooked and I have things left over. So anyway, I just always think that's so interesting. But yeah.
And being the only girl, you wouldn't have hand-me-down clothes.
I didn't, right. Everything was, new and fresh. And, there were, I was like, of course different because I was, the only girl. And they were like, what do we do with this right here? My mom was just like, let me just handle it. And so, I have a really close relationship because it was just kind of us and the guys. And so, yeah, it was fun. And I think, I do think kind of having that more intimate relationship with my mom was definitely what kind of got me into just the whole concept of like caring for yourself. And I think my family, I think they were always, I think because they were involved in the military, I think they were always kind of more active. I think you kind of have to be. Like I can remember, oh my gosh, my parents are waking up super early to go to their training base to go train and do PT, and I would have to help them train, and so yeah, so that was really interesting to kind of see how that all played out when they were active, and then when they were retired it was a little different, but definitely when they were active it was fun to get the pull-ups and all those other things. So yeah.
Well, take me through your education. Like, where did you go to first grade, and then on through high school? So,
gosh, elementary is such a blur because of that transition. But the first thing I can really remember was my elementary school when I went to St. Louis, and so So I grew up, I have a very interesting, I think, background. So we grew up in inner city St. Louis when we first moved to St. Louis. And so it was pretty impoverished. It was high crime. And so, and I think that was kind of reflected in the schools sometimes. And so, so I can remember going to Harrison Elementary, so that was my school, and I mean, and I think that's when like the transition was totally different, because I went from being in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where I would like openly and freely walk to school. Sometimes like the kids didn't even have like shoes. I mean, they had shoes, like they would carry it with them, but like it was just very, you know, we stayed kind of on the outskirts in a very small, like again, countryside, and so it was like different, you know. And I can just remember like picking apples and just, you know, gently gliding my hand across the stream as I would like walk to school with my grandmother, and to go from there to a more urban place where that was not, like there were like no trees, no fruit. And so I think that was such a shift for me. And then just the fact that that environment was just, I felt like the students, though we were all roughly, 7 or 8, like they were very mature in a lot of ways that I just wasn't, you know. And so, but despite that, I think it took a while, but I kind of blended in okay. There were, you know, a little bit of bumps and hiccups along the way, just me feeling like I really kind of didn't fit in, because I guess I kind of didn't, you know. I'm this country girl, you know, with 2 plaits way down, and everybody else, you know, has on whatever the latest trend is, and they have their Jordans and their pullovers, and you know, we didn't know anything about that, and so that was kind of hard, but yeah, and I think learning for me was a little hard too, just because of the transition. So it was kind of tough in elementary for me.
Well, did it come in handy having older brothers
at
that
did.
point?
Yes. So my oldest brother was in charge of making sure that we got to school. Like we rode the school bus, but my older brother was like, he made sure that we were there. He made sure that no one like picked on us, and so that was pretty good. But I really didn't have too much. You know, kids never really picked on me, I think more than anything, they thought I was just a little different. They thought I talked funny. I had at that point, a real deep Southern accent. So, but I never really got picked on, but he was there always. And maybe that's why, because they're like, oh, they got, you know, at this point, my brother is 5 years older than me. So he's like closer to his teens, and you know, by that time, like he's definitely like a country guy, like a, you know, and so they did not mess with him. But yeah, so that could be why I didn't have any bullies. But yeah, so that was fun.
So from Harrison.
Yeah, so from Harrison I went to, what was that? I think it was called like Central Middle School. At that point, my family, we moved from the inner city to a more suburban area, and which was great, because of course in the inner city you I mean, it was very common to hear gunshots. We had bars on our windows. And you know, I think for my family, they're like, this is just not what we want for, you know, our kids. And so as I got older, so I entered into middle school, and that was really when things started to kind of transform for me. So I was always, you know, like looking back on it, I was always kind of like a chunky kid, because like, you know, my grandmother would make like, she could make anything. I mean, like, you're waking up to every day, like not just on the weekends, but every day, like homemade biscuits from scratch, and she would go out and slaughter her own pig and like prepare it. And I mean, so we would have like pancakes and bacon and eggs and sausage and all these kind of different, just for breakfast. And I can remember going into middle school and wanting to kind of fit in a little bit more. And so I was a sensitive child, and so I read a lot, and I kind of stuck with my studies, because again, I kind of felt like, you know, I really didn't fit, but I was like, well, I want to fit. And so then I think I started to be more intentional about the things that I was eating from a very early age. And then, you know, I think what unintentionally happened was I started to develop, I would say, unhealthy eating patterns. And so, like, I was really, really restrictive. I didn't eat that much. And instead of, you know, people being like, oh, I'm Tanya, like, you look great. You should continue doing what you're doing. And so that kind of perpetuates, because, you know, I'm in that preteen, and, you know, I see how, you know, ladies look on TV, and I want to look like that, and, you know, I want, you know, to get asked out on the middle school, you know, dance, and so that was definitely an interesting time for me. But scholastically, I thrived again. Like, that's kind of where I found my comfort, and so, you know, I was on student council in middle school, and just a number of other things I, you know, did. I was really into writing and performing, and so I did all of those things, and so that was fun. But I would say, like, middle school was really where I believe I started having this kind of inconsistent and unhealthy relationship with food, because my thought was like, hey, if I eat less, I look skinnier. Skinnier is better. Skinnier is better than being big, you know, because when I looked, I guess, how I was coming into elementary school, no one really said anything. Like, I was just that smart girl. But then when I started only eating like a handful of like Raisin Bran for breakfast and like a banana for lunch, and then everybody was just like, oh, we don't know what you're doing, but you just need to continue to do it. And so that was a little tough, and I really don't think that my parents knew, because again, it was a lot of us. And, you know, sometimes you just kind of get like a little lost in the shuffle. You know, my mom didn't notice that I started losing weight, but again, she was just like, well, you know, I didn't know that you were kind of cutting back, and, you know, and so I think that was kind of where it kind of started for me. Yeah.
Was exercise part of that equation?
At that point, not really. No, it was just the intake. As I moved into high school, that's when the exercising came in.
Were you aiming for a particular size?
I really wasn't. You know, I just smaller. Like, I knew I just wanted to be smaller. But by that time, I had lost a significant amount of weight, and I was so like, I got to the point exiting middle school, entering high school, where like my teachers were like, okay, like, what's really going on? Because when you're at lunch, you don't really eat, and then, you know, and in my school, they're like, are you doing drugs? You know, like, what's going on? But, you know, I never had the language to say I have an eating disorder. And also in terms of in impoverished communities, and especially with women of color, you don't hear that talked about a lot in our circles. you know, because it's just kind of not our thing, you know, and you know, I can even remember hearing that language was like, well, we know you don't. That's just, we know you don't have that, but I did. And so that was very, very interesting. Looking back on it now that I'm talking to you, I'm like, now I actually have the language to understand and to, in the process, to understand like what was going on at that time. You know, I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to, you know, I wanted people to like me. So it was like a lot of acceptance, and so then it became just a matter of control, you know, and so it shifted, and so, but in high school, I think, you know, I think high school's just hard.
I would agree. Yes.
For anyone. For me, I think at that point was when things with my family started to, you know, become not, I think it became challenging. And so, you know, at that point there were some issues with my mom and my dad. My dad is, you know, back in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and, you know, he had struggled with addictions. He was addicted to heroin, and that was tough for our family. And then my mom, I think just trying to handle it the best that she could, began to depend a lot on alcohol, and so I could just see our family just kind of crumbling. And so for me, again, I think when we talk about just the relationship with food, it became, I can't control anything, and I need to control something, and I can control this. And so that was a piece of it. But then another piece was, I don't want anyone else to see, like, the madness going on in my house. And so I think, for me, I think all that I did in high school was to accomplish and to achieve, and to accomplish and to achieve, because I was just kind of always that child, like, you know, she's great, she's gonna do this. And so, you know, I took advanced placement classes, and I was, you know, on homecoming court and prom court. I was editor-in-chief of the literary magazine. I would play soccer, I played tennis, I ran track. I mean, just too much, you know, and I thought that was, you know, I was on the yearbook staff. I just did any and everything that I could do. I did it. I mean, I was getting to school at like 6 and wasn't coming home until like 7. So I stayed there forever. And so, and I think because of those things, because I was a high achiever, I was very much involved. Again, I don't think anyone noticed that I had that I was unhealthy, that I was really living in an unhealthy place. And so, but I can remember going into my junior year, that was just really tough for me, because things with my family got worse, and, you know, I could see, then it became this thing of, I need an outlet, like, I'm tired of controlling and restricting and controlling and restriction. Well, then I would just binge. So I would have these moments of like binging, and then I would have moments of very rigid and restrictive food intake, and then I would exercise more, and then it would just kind of go through this cycle. It would go through the cycle over and over and over and over and over, and it stayed that way, honestly. Almost since I started my health journey here. It's been a very long process, and so that's kind of what it looked like. And so again, like I would say, my high school year was difficult in a lot of ways, but I think that those were kind of the biggest things. And I just think it's, you know, when you have a personality that's like really bubbly, you can mask a lot of stuff, and no one won't really, even if they see it, even if they know. Like, I know some people knew, but they're, oh, she's okay. It's just the thing, you know, and they won't confront you on it. And also, I think, because we just didn't have the language. Again, though I lived in a more suburban area at the time, it was still very much like low income, overpopulated schools. You kind of just got lost in the shuffle, and that's just kind of the way that it is. You know, we have school counselors, but they're testing, or they're with the disciplinary, you know, the students that had disciplinary problems. So because I didn't have all that, it may have been some concern here or there, mention here or there, but I would just be like, oh no, I'm just trying to get in this class, someone's just coming up and I'd be like, oh, okay. And I'll just be on my way. And so, yeah.
You were very deliberate, it sounds like, too.
Yeah.
With your thinking and actions.
Yes, because it became a motive. I have to cover up. And so.
When your girlfriends didn't?
No, honestly, and again, I think it's very interesting how society plays into that culture because they would be like, girl, you exercise all the time. I want to be like you. Like, how can I do that? Like, what are you eating? I want to do that. And so, because, and especially for women, I think, I'm so glad that it's changing now, but it's always been like your power comes in how you look. And you're afforded more opportunities if you look a certain way. You can get more dates, or you can get attention of guys if you look a certain way. And so the I guess mission then is to attain that, whatever that is. We don't know. I don't even know what that is, but whatever that is, because our society says you have to be skinnier, pretty, smarter, faster. You have to do more, and so. It doesn't say, hey, just be yourself and you are enough. No. And so I think blending all of that in, it continued to create a culture where unhealthy was normal, unhealthy was healthy. So, yeah.
With all of that going on, then you kept your studies and your grades up?
I did. And so, and again, I think all of that was just really just a distraction and a little bit of a cry for help. But again, I honestly really don't know how I made it. But I did. I got good grades, and I got full tuition scholarship to Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri, and that's where I entered in 2006. And fall 2006, I would never forget it because I wanted to just leave my family as quickly as possible. So I was like, okay, 4 hours is really good. It's not too long. It's a good driving distance, and so I left. And so, yeah, that was a hard transition though. Because again, I'm coming from a place where my identity was so stuck in all of these things and all of these accomplishments and all of these superlatives, and I'm being plopped into a school with 20 other thousand students, and I'm like, who am I and where do I fit? And so I would say I had probably gained easily 50 pounds my freshman year because I was just so sad. Like, I was just like, I just don't know who I am. There are tons of students that have many superlatives and really like, where do I fit? Where does my fit? And so, but then again, that didn't last long because, I kind of went back into my mode of, okay, I'm just going to accomplish more. And then also when you come from a big family, and even if it's a little chaotic and a little dysfunctional, that becomes your normal and you settle into that. But I didn't have, any of that. It was just like me. And so I feel like I'm bringing the counselor out in me, But, and so typically what we tend to do is we tend to create our environment that resembles our family system. Even when our family system is a little bit off, we will intentionally place dysfunction in so that we can continue to operate in roles that we know until some type of intervention occurs, which I'm so glad I had mine, but not as an undergraduate, not as a freshman intern in. But, I think I did what I always did. I went back to what I know, and I just really began to try to accomplish more. And so I began working out really vigorously, and I had a workout partner who was in my dorm mate. And again, like, I think it's very interesting that when I had lost the weight heading into my sophomore year, kind of towards the end of my freshman year, no one questioned whether it was healthy. They're just like, you look great. I would be in the dining hall and all I would have for dinner would be like string beans. That's it. and it would be like, whatever you're doing, it's working. I am eating streaming. Okay, so and so again, I think just again going back to that restriction, but then eating without restriction. Okay, but now I need an outlet, and so again, just that really unhealthy relationship with food, and I think that was again a cry for help, a cry for self-understanding, a cry to try to fit in, and so, and again, I think it goes back to the fact that when I am smaller, people comment me more. You know, they are nicer to me, like from my exchange with people. You know, it becomes, you look so good, and you know, oh, you look so pretty, and all of these things. And so, you know, as a young woman, I'm 18, I want that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great. And at that time I was single, so that was even better. And so, but even though I still battled with that a little bit, and you know, with that came like depression and anxiety and all of those things. But even with those things, I feel so blessed and I feel so thankful that I did amazingly well in college. I was on the Dean's Honor Roll, you know. I began to kind of find my niche a little bit, and so I think I ended up serving as some executive board on our local NAACP, and just really trying to be an advocate and be a plug-in into the community. And then kind of turned into my sophomore year, I think I kind of planted myself in that, and so I founded an organization that was called the Multicultural Student Recruitment Team in order to recruit more multicultural students to our campus, and to also develop places where they feel comfortable and they feel safe. And I became the director of equity and diversity in our student government association. And so I think I just really, you know, I was a university ambassador, I was a resident hall assistant, and again, we just pile it on because that's just how I work. I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. And so
when did you sleep?
I didn't, and that's the thing. And so and it stayed like that. Honestly, I would say it stayed like that for a while. When I entered into my senior year, at that point I joined Greek life, and so that adds on a whole nother level of social acceptance, and especially in a sorority, they highly encourage you to look a certain way. And so, and I'm not sure if those are things that are ever talked about, but there is a certain, you know, appearance that they would like for you to keep up and uphold and things like that. And then I was very public, you know, because fraternity and sorority life was huge at my university, like it is here. And so that did not help me. It kind of made matters worse. And again, I would have these periods where I would gain 70 pounds and then lose it, and again, I think the most shocking and scary thing for me is no one ever, like people that, I mean, knew me from freshman year to senior year never was like, are you okay? You know, like, at all. I don't know if it was just a sense of normalcy, that this is just what happens, but I knew that was unhealthy. But again, I didn't have the words, I didn't have the means to like really express myself and say, hey, I'm hurting, and this is the way I tend to take it out on myself. I don't binge drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do any of those things, but I do this. I would say the turning point for me was when I entered into graduate school. And this is 2 years before coming to OSU. And so I'm in graduate school, and I can really remember, and I'm still at my alma mater, so I'm at Missouri State University. And so I can remember just feeling like I can't live like this anymore. Like, I know that this isn't healthy, and I know that this isn't the life that I want. And so things really began to kind of slow down a lot for me. And I really began to try to deal with some of the things. Now, I didn't do it willingly all of the time. I think there were situations like that really kind of pushed me to that. When one was when I was like in just a real severe depression. I'm like, my family is a wreck. Like, my mom is worse. She's not getting better. At this point, my family's kind of fragmented. You know, just and then also again just life stuff. So I'm like 22. You know, just broke off like one of the most important intimate relationships that I had with my boyfriend. We were engaged, and so that was a whole other thing. Yes, and so all of that, entering into grad school, I was a basket. I was like a wreck, and so at that point, I remember going. I really even don't know what happened, but I was just so tired. I was just so depressed, and I remember I got a knock on my door, and because at that point I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want to kind of end it all. I'm just like so tired. I'm so tired of this. And this guy came, and I remember seeing him on campus, and he was like, I know you don't know me. He was like, and I know that this is totally weird. He was like, but I believe that I just need to come and knock on your door. And I was just like, this is so weird, right? Totally could be. He did not know me at all. And so, when I say not know me, when you're on campus and you see people, but like we weren't like friends or anything like that. And he was just like, I want to take you somewhere. I want to take you to a place. He was like, I feel like you're hurting, and I just want to take you to a place where I think you can get some help. And I was just like, and at that point I'm like crying. I'm like, who is this guy, and how does he know my life? And so, and he ends up taking me to to me at that moment in my life, it was a random place ever, to church, right? And I'm sitting in this pew, I'm like, why am I here? Why did I be in here? But I truly believe that was the start of me letting go of everything, me letting go of this need to be a good package, and you know, I'm like breaking apart on the inside, you know. I have to look better, I have to do more, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to, you know, despite where my family is, you know, I have to be the one that achieves and all of these things. And so that was huge for me. So at that point around 23, and I'm like, okay, it's like this spiritual awakening occurred. And so I get saved, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna change. Change is hard, and it's a long and I think every single process is that. And so at that point, those 2 years of being in Springfield and being in graduate school, I think was really helpful for me, because though I got significantly heavier, I think instead of trying to like work really hard, I just settled into it. I was just like, because I can't worry about exercising, because I need to worry about my soul. And so I went into therapy and just really tried to work on some things, became really active in my church. And again, because I never do things halfway, when I'm committed, I'm very much committed. And so I started doing outreach programs for young women and hosting Bible studies in my home and on campus. And so like I'm just always, you know, so plugged in, and you know, beginning to like do prayer ministry through my church and her training and all those amazing things. And again, I think even with that, it came a point after I'd done that for a year, I was like, I'm noticing a pattern. I do a whole lot and then I burn out, and then I do a whole lot and then I burn out. And so again, like I think just moving into more adulthood. So at that time, about 24, 25, and again, I mean, graduate school was much harder than undergrad, but I did well, graduated clearly. And it was difficult. I didn't do as well as I would like, but you know, I did fine. And I mean, I had a 3.5, so I felt like that's good enough. And so it was around that time where, you know, you're supposed to double graduate school, have my master's in higher education and student affairs. I had an emphasis in young adult development. And so I knew, I was like, you know what, I was always involved in high school, was always involved in college. I'm like, I should just get paid for it. I should just get paid to do what I'm already doing. And so I'm trying to find a job and all of these things while at the same time working through this so much. And I had the opportunity to work in a trio program at Missouri State University. So, like you said, my title is Coordinator of Trio Student Support Services, and TRIO is a national program. And so ours happens to be housed here at Oklahoma State University, but there are a number of programs throughout the United States. And so I was at one at Missouri State, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. And so when the job was open here, I was like, I've never really heard of Oklahoma. I've never really heard of Stillwater. I'm like, what? I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna do it. And so, and at that point, I'm at a much healthier space, still not physically healthy. And at that point, when I say I had settled in, I had really settled in. And I was probably pushing, close to 300 pounds at that point. I had a lot of chest issues. I could remember not being able to walk like a good consistent 5 to 10 minutes without my leg going numb. I would bend over and try to tie my shoe, and I would be literally out of breath. And so, again, while my mental health got much better physically, I guess, I just didn't have the energy to do both. And so, I was like, okay, maybe I just need like a new scenery and a new place. At this time, I'm feeling way more grounded, and I'm able to deal with things that I wasn't able to deal with before in the past. And so I applied, and I remember I got a phone call from my now supervisor, Jesus Reckless, and he was like, hey, we saw your resume, and we just kind of want to give you a phone interview. And I'm like, okay, great. And I had the phone interview, and he was like, we really like you. And so, just come to campus and see if you like it, and see if you want to call OSU like your home or whatever. And so I was like, well, that's kind of random, because jobs really just kind of don't happen like that. It's more process. So I was like, okay. And so I came here, and I stayed at the Atherton, and the Atherton is beautiful, first and foremost. And then I had kind of a higher floor, and so I looked out, and I saw, because when you look out, you can see kind of it's just green, and then it was just beautiful flowers, and I was just like, this is just so nice. So I was like, and I just felt a peace about being here. And I said, okay, I think this is it. And I had other job offers in Colorado Springs at that, which was really nice. But again, I was like, I'm not sure, but I settled into Oklahoma because I'm like, what? Such a good first job. I love TRIO. I love the opportunity to help first-generation low-income students, because that was me. My parents didn't go to college. No one went to college. I didn't even know what that was. And then so being able to do that for other students, I was like, yeah, this is right up my alley. And so I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to come here. And I get here, and it is different. It is different from St. Louis. But, I had to find my way, and that was a struggle during the first semester. The second semester that I got here, I was just like, I should be healthy. It was just really random, because I was like, I was like, I have nothing to do here, because I have no friends, at all. What is helpful is I'm a part of a sorority, so you get to kind of have that. But even still, I have no friends, and I was just like, maybe I should start, I don't know, being healthy, I guess. And so that's kind of how it started. And then again, I tried a little bit during the first semester, and it didn't quite work as well. But that second semester, so I was here on campus, I want to say the 2000, because I had graduated in, okay, so around that 2013, 2014, and so I had gotten here then, and I remember that January, I said, well, I'm not going to focus so much on my size, because I've been there, done that, and crash and burn. And when I kind of focused too much on the scale, because I had been there, done that, crashed and burned, I said, you know, I think I want to do things a little different. And so I entered into my health journey with a fast. I did a 21-day Daniel fast because I said, you know what? I said, I really want this to be different. I want this to be life transforming for me. I want to be healed, like, through this process. I just don't want to lose weight. Like, I just, you know, I want to really have something that I can hold on to. I want to adopt a totally new lifestyle because I had been skinny and I wasn't happy. I had been big and I wasn't happy. I've been super duper fit and I wasn't happy. And I'm like, it's not the scale and it's not the number size. It's something different. What is it? And so I had begun to pray. And then after fasting for 21 days, I said, okay. I said, you know, I'm just going to take it day by day. I'm not going to worry about, you know, some plan or some, because there's so many things. Like, you could do the Atkins diet. You could do, oh gosh, so many. You can do Weight Watchers. You can do this. You can do that. And I had tried all those things, and it did not work for me at all. I still had the issue of the yo-yo dieting and the binge eating and all of those things. And so I think being in this space, one, because it was new, and I felt like I could really reinvent myself because no one, you know, really knew who I was. And so, and then also being in an environment where I now, you know, am in charge of helping students grow and develop. And I want to make sure I practice what I preach. And so some of the things that we do with our students is called individual plan of actions. And they have academic goals, but then they have personal goals. And with those personal goals, we really strive to move them from, you know, where they're currently at to where they want to be. And for some students, it's, you know, I want to be healthy, I want to spend more time with family, I want to do those things. And so we encourage that. And I said, you know, I'm going to see if this really works. I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm going to do this for myself. And so that was a personal goal, not to like lose any weight per se, but it was really just to continue on with my healing. So when I first started my health journey here, it was really easy. You know, I would just go to the Sarrington Center and kind of walk on the treadmill. I didn't really try to do anything too crazy. I would, you know, lift some free weights, but that was pretty much it. And I would just, you know, kind of go home. And then the eating came after, and so, you know, I would strive for just balance. I love french fries. I eat french fries probably like at least once a week. Like, that's at least probably more than 2 to 3 times because I love french fries. That is not something that I'm willing to give up. And so, you know, I began to do that. I began to make sure I'm adopting those things that I love because you know, having a small fry is enjoyable to me. I really do. I enjoy it and I appreciate it. Now, having like 10 small fries probably is the best, but having one of those is really enjoyable. And so I was very mindful to do those things and to keep those things that I liked. But then I was also mindful to love myself enough to say no more. That was hard. And even now I still struggle with that a little bit. But to love myself enough to be able to enjoy the things that I like without shame, without guilt, without fear that, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain a pound, I'm going to get another cellulite, I'm going to, you know, do whatever. But then to also love myself enough to say, you know what, this is enough. 1 donut is enough. I don't need 2 or 3. That balance is so hard. But it's that balance that I strive for, and I believe it's that balance that keeps me grounded. And so I definitely incorporated, it was very much a spiritual journey, because a lot of what I did, like I quoted a lot of biblical scriptures, you know, just about the power that I do have, you know, to make really good decisions for my life. And again, when I, you know, maybe one day I don't do so well, and to not sit in that, because sometimes I think we get stuck in our failures, we get stuck in what we didn't do, we get stuck in yesterday. And I remember reading something and it talked about how like God is not the God of yesterday, you won't find his presence there. And you won't find his presence tomorrow, but you will find him in the present. Because that's why we call him I am. Because he's here. He's right now. And I only have power for right now in this present moment. And so I can't worry about yesterday. I have no power over it. Yesterday is done and gone. I have no power over the future because I don't know what it holds. But today, I have it. Today, I can really press in. And I can make that choice. And I started to slowly learn that victory wasn't in the scale. And victory wasn't in my pant size. But victory was in every single choice I made. Victory for me became the fact that I got up at 6 o'clock and I walked for 30 minutes. That was a victory for me. And so that was so helpful. Just rechanging how I thought. Again, it was such a struggle because that's just not me. Remember, I'm all or nothing, like in it or that's it. But to find that balance daily, and it's a daily thing. And so I was just like, okay. And so that first semester, that first year, second semester of that academic year, that was really my goal, was to just be mindful and make everyday good choices. And at that point, people had begun to notice a little bit, unlike the other times that I had lost weight and became healthy, this one was different. I didn't lose it very fast. It took over 3 years. But when I say that I am almost happiest, when I say that this is a size that I can maintain and I feel good in, that's what matters to me most. And so I did that. That first semester, it was just really about adapting a new lifestyle. And I think the biggest thing that I wish that, and now when my friends are like, oh, how do you do it? I'm like, time. It takes time. So much time. And again, it's like that every single day choice of just considering yourself and loving yourself and saying, I am enough to put the fried chicken down for right now. And I am enough to get a kale salad or fix it in a way that I know that I would like. And so I think that was the biggest thing for me. And so moving into the, I guess it would be like that 2014, 2015 year. So the second year that I'm here, I became a little more intentional. I was just like, okay, well, this is great. And you know what happens, like, when you reach a certain, exercise level, I wanted to explore. Because at this time, I was probably about 25 to 30 pounds lighter, and I felt more comfortable doing different types of exercises. Because before, when I was almost 300 pounds, me just literally walking up my steps in my office and walking back was a workout. And that was it. And again, it was being very comfortable in where I was. I would see girls and guys and kids and college students, and they would be sprinting on the treadmill and lifting all of these weights. And my journey really, it really incorporated being okay with where I was and really not trying to do too much. So this 2 incline and this 3.5 speed on the treadmill is enough for me, and that's okay. And even then, it takes a lot. It took me a while to kind of overcome that, because I want to sprint, because they just look so healthy, right? And so it was just really, it was really interesting to see that shift for me and how I really battled. Within that and again, it went back to every choice, and I'm like, Bianca, you are not there. You just need to stay here and coast. And so at that time, I had lost a little bit of weight, and I said, I want to do something different. And then I saw that there was the cowboy challenge, and I said, oh, okay. And it was sponsored by the Finchum Wellness Center, and I applied, and I think the director, I think it was Eric is his name, he contacted me. He was like, yeah, we love to have you. And so, I went and I joined that, and that was super fun. And so then I was able to see how exercise is, yes, about, moving and wellness, but it can also be really fun and doing some different things. And I learned totally different workouts, and then doing that for a semester really changed body structure. It was high intensity, but again, I definitely kept it to where it was manageable for me. And I mean, I got a lot out of that program because they coupled it with nutrition. And so, though I thought I was, and again, I was doing well because I wasn't like eating a lot and then not eating and then eating a lot, and then I kept it pretty consistent. The registered dietitian in the Saratoga Wellness Center said, hey, you know what, Bianca, you know, I'm surprised you don't get bored. You like the same thing every day. She's like, you know, and then I see sometimes like towards the end of the night, you know, she's like, why don't you add some variety? Do some things that you wouldn't really do. That helped me so much. And then also to see, you know, I would tell her, I'm like, I'm trying not to eat French fries. Who's made French fries? She's like, eat French fries. Enjoy it, because there is really no such thing as bad foods and good foods. Now, there is a such thing as more nutrients-dense foods and nutrients-rich foods versus foods that may not have as much nutrients. But she was just like, that's okay. And I began to get educated. And so again, we go back to really not having the words to explain or describe a skill deficit. And that's really what it was. And it made me think, so after, you know, meeting with the dietitian, and then also I think my time in counseling, that's when I realized that I had an eating disorder. And that, which is why I think I did decide not to do any exercising and really just process through that. So that was awareness right there. That was the teaching of skill. And it made me think back. I said, well, why didn't I know this? Why didn't anyone say this? Mm-hmm. And then I started reading a little bit more literature about it. And there is little to no research done with eating disorders among African American women. That is like kind of a non-existent thing. And when there is, we do interview women about it. It's like that. That's just not what we do. On the media, just in general, I don't see that. And I know this is silly, but when you go and look at a Lifetime movie or something like that, I don't see women that look like me that says, hey, I have an eating disorder. Hey, I have bulimia. You know, hey, you know, I'm anorexic. So those words were absent in my life. And also things like depression and anxiety, there were no words for those things to describe that. And I understand why, because again, in my environment, in my community, there were things more pressing, like you need to work, you need a job, you need food. And so that's it. That's kind of like what that was for us. And I think that really having the skills added to my health journey, because again, I was able to then identify language and words and associate my eating patterns with my overall mental health, because they're very much connected. You know, when I'm happy, I tend to eat a certain way. When I'm sad, I tend to eat a certain way. And so, again, I think that's huge. I think educating yourself is really huge. Self-awareness is huge. I think self-compassion is so huge. And so being with the Cowboy Challenge was just very, very helpful for me in terms of, again, educating me on who says that it's a bad food? Who says that, you know, you can't enjoy a burger if you want a burger and you eat it in moderation coupled with your healthy lifestyle? Like, who says that you can't? And so just really chipping away at those, like, you know, lies and social things that people, that I think, you know, I guess we as society kind of put on ourselves and on others. And so after the Cowboy Challenge, I was like, well, I like this. I want to do more different things. And so again, it became about what can I explore? It was never really about, I look like this and I want to get smaller and I want to get tiny. But it was just about, I want to try new things. I don't want to be limited by what I feel like I can or can't do physically. I want to try it. And so I ended up doing group training, which was really fun, and we got to learn different things with our group trainer, and I'm still in that. And so that was fun. So this was the summer, moving into the summer of, I would say that 2014, 2015 year, and then moving into the 2015-16 year, which was the last academic term. that was a really huge time for me because this is my 3rd year. And of course now at this time, people are noticing like, you are small. And I'm gonna tell you, I did, outside of going to the Cowboy Challenge, and when my trainer did pre and post test, I never weighed myself, ever. Because that's not what it was about. I never measured myself. I never did any of those things. You know, I did track my food because that was, again, a part of being mindful. Because sometimes I notice that I mindfully eat, or I will unmindfully eat or unmindfully don't eat. And me tracking it kind of encouraged me to be responsible. And that's really what it came down to be responsible for what I'm putting in my mouth. Not judging it, not saying, ooh girl, you shouldn't have had that Snickers, but saying, okay, I had it, that's okay. And this is, and not to focus on that one thing, because sometimes, like, let's say I would have a Snickers and I would be so overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, my health is over. Like, literally, it would be like kind of that all or nothing thinking. But writing that out would say, okay, I had a Snickers bar, but I woke up and I put kale in my omelet, okay? And I had egg whites. And, you know, again, and looking at it from the big picture and not focusing on those failures, what we deem as failures, but like, you know what, I'm a whole package. Like, yeah, I like a Snickers bar every now and again, and that was really awesome. And so, and being okay with that. And so I did do that, and that was very helpful for me. And so moving into this year, you know, now everybody's like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, like, I didn't notice that you were getting so much. And I told them, like, it has taken me 3 years to do this. I mean, it wasn't easy, and there were times where, man, I kind of fell off and I went back to that restriction and binging, but I knew it. I knew it now. Like, I knew that I was in that place, and I was like, I don't want to stay there. So instead of, you know, my yo-yo dieting, spanning for months, it may only span for a weekend, or it may only span for a week. It still occurs, and that's okay. But now I am equipped enough to say, okay, how am I feeling? Do I feel out of control in the area? Do I feel subconscious? And how do I work through that? And so, yeah, I think that is the major difference. And I don't ever think that there's a point, you know, I'm with my friends that, like, you've arrived, like, you look great. There is never a point of arriving. I just think it's just this really big long journey of help and self-acceptance and healing, that I think is just kind of all intertwined. And so I decided to run a half marathon. Never done that before. Never thought I would be the person to do that, because that is hard work, let me tell you. And I ran the Memorial Run. And everyone was like, did you? And I really did. It was an amazing experience. It was hard, and I'm not sure if I'll do another one. But I so enjoyed it. But again, I think my whole thing is like, I don't want to be limited by what I can do. And I always want to explore for new opportunities. And so now, you know, I'm trying to learn how to swim. I think I want to do a triathlon. I want to run, bike, you know, and swim. And so it's just always like new things. But now I know I can just train for this one thing. I don't have to train for this and do some other stuff. And again, it's about just those lifestyle choices. I think that's the biggest thing: support and help. And now I have friends that are more mindful. And you know, when they see me, and especially when I'm training for something, like when I was training for my half marathon, like, you know, again, about my personality, I researched everything. What other foods should I eat? How often should I eat them? And so they were just like, hey, we're just noticing that your eating pattern has shifted, you know, just tell me what's going on with that. And so all of those things were so helpful. And I can't say that it was one thing, but I will say that it was a combination of things. It was a combination of support. And again, I came to a point where I stopped doing it for other people. I came to a point where I stopped doing it because I wanted to look like somewhere on a magazine that I would never look like, because I can't Photoshop every day. You know, I came to a point where I was like, man, I am enough, and I just want to be the best me ever. You know, if I never lose another pound, that is okay. I am still loved. I am still beautiful. I still have so much to give, and I'm gonna operate in that. I'm gonna operate in my strengths. I'm not gonna operate in the fact of, oh, I can't get this role to leave anymore. You know, how am I gonna do that? You know, so I think that shift came, and again, that shift took 3 years. It's, you know, it's yeah, and I think that that's the biggest thing. I think, you know, now as I look back, I'm like, wow, I think if you would have interviewed me when I first got here, this would have never came out of my mouth. But yeah, now it's I think that this whole process and this whole journey has shown me so much. And yeah, I think it's complicated. I think it's messy, but life is complicated and messy, and you just kind of, again, continue to make that choice, because victory is in the choice. And I tell my friends that all the time, you know, especially the friends that, like, you know, are trying to get started on the health journey. I'm like, I promise you, the victory is in me. You woke up and you put on your tennis shoes. That is a victory, because I want to lay down. I don't want to stay asleep. But the fact that I got up and I put on my tennis shoes and I walked out my door, and I'm like, even if you just walk for 15 minutes, that is the victory. The victory is saying, you know what? Instead of having 5 pieces of chicken, I'm gonna have 2. That is a victory, and that should be celebrated. It shouldn't be minimized. It shouldn't be, oh, I can do more. We live in a culture that says do more, work more, exercise more. No, like, those small modifications add up to something so huge. And I think because we live in a culture of instant gratification, it's like, if I do this new Atkins diet, I can drop 30 pounds in 30 days. Okay, you could. But is that long lasting, and is that healthy? And so I think that is, I guess, in a nutshell, my story and my journey, and yeah, I hope that I'm telling people things that I wish other people would have told me. You know, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I am mindful, you know, when I see my friends or my students trying to lose weight, and, you know, I'll see them in the gym and they're wearing these, like, saran wrap suits and clothes, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. It's okay if you feel like you need to do it, because some of them train and they compete, and I get it and I totally understand. But I think creating spaces where we can talk about these things, and creating spaces where, you know, someone says, hey, it's not really about the number on the scale, but it's about how you feel, and it's about, again, like, being the best you that you can be. We only get one body, and so I think that's kind of what I wanted. And I beat up my body enough, so I'm trying to love on it a little bit more. So yeah. So that's, sorry. Do you have any more questions?
How does your grandmother?
Right. I didn't even think about this. I did not even think about family. Okay. So my family. Wow. Did not even think about that. The reactions of, like, so my family, because they've been with me for 28 years now, they know that I'm just a little bit there, up and down. But they have so commented on, they're like, Bianca, this is the longest that you look great consistently. And that has, like, really catapulted them to being like, you know, I think I'm going to exercise a little bit more. Like, what are you doing? And I think, and of course, oh gosh, my grandmother is so amazing. She comes, and again, and I love it. It's just something so amazing about being in, like, those really small towns. And I get in there, and she's like, you look like Miss Hollywood. And she's just so sweet. And then she's like, let me cook you something to eat. And I'm like, oh no. And by the time I say that, she already has a pound cake and all these things, and she's whipping up all this, and I'm just, you know, like, trying to be polite and trying to eat as much as I can. But no, she's definitely a supporter. And again, I think going back to, like, the educational piece, you know, I don't think it was ever taught to us what a balanced meal looked like. I think they're just, like, staple family foods, so we'll have, like, you know, meat and mashed potatoes and maybe some peas, but, you know, no one ever really talked about superfoods like kale and spinach and quinoa, and that was absent. I never saw kale in my house. I never saw spinach in my house. Never saw any of those superfoods in my house, and then it made me think, like, wow, where are we lacking? in my family anyway, and in my community, because that wasn't even, I never even knew that as an option. So, right? And so, but I have seen the transforming effects of eating them daily and implementing them in daily into my diet. And now I have the opportunity to, like when I go back home, my grandma is just so sweet. And she's like, okay, what do you have for me today? Like, you know, coming back in. Because, you know, Arkansas isn't far from Oklahoma at all. And so I'll bring her avocados. And she's like, I love these. And every time I come, she's like, oh, get me those green things. And we'll have grapes. And, you know, I'll make breakfast like my kind of breakfast. And she loves it. And every time she's like, bring me what you eat. And let me, you know, and seeing those tips, like she still cooks at these, but for me, she'd be like, we're gonna bake some chicken, okay? And I'm like, yes, that's great. And, you know, being able to talk to her about like diabetes and all of those things, and so she's cut out like starches and she eats wheat. So it's just again those small things, and to see how when I stopped being about like, oh wait, and I started being about like holistic health, and I allowed the process to occur, how it transformed like my family so much. Like I go home now to see my mom, and her diet has completely changed. When I go in, it's like stocked with fruits and fresh vegetables, and hardly anything is frozen. She's better than me. Like she purees everything, and I'm like, oh Mom, I'm gonna go and like buy applesauce. She's like, no, I got it. I got this new puree. And she'll get an apple out and she'll cut the cork out, and she like churns her own applesauce, like super organic, totally like on a whole nother level that I am not on. But yeah, and I remember we were talking, and she was just like, I mean, I knew, she was like, at first we'll be like, oh, Bianca's coming home, so I know she eats more healthier. And she's like, and then when you would leave, there would be stuff left over. I just started eating them, and she was like, and I like them, and I feel good. And so that was cool.
Well, did you have home ec in high school?
I did,
but they didn't cover nutrition.
Not really.
Or maybe health. Well,
we did a lot of sewing and making things, but not necessarily. I did have a health class in high school and in college, but at that point it was just about passing the class. I didn't I didn't care to put two and two together. So.
Well, so these days, what do you typically have for breakfast?
Okay, so for breakfast,
typically.
That nice green smoothie right there. Okay, so typically for my breakfast looks like I'll have a protein smoothie, and it's vegan based because I just prefer a more plant-based diet now. And so I'll have vegan protein, and then I'll add in, I like really thick and hearty shakes because I typically eat right after my workout. And I don't like having a huge breakfast right after I've been jumping up and down, and this doesn't bode well for me. And so I would put kale and spinach and some hemp protein in it, and almond milk, and so that would be kind of my breakfast smoothie. I mean a banana, and so that is kind of what that looks like. And then shortly after, because that is a smoothie, it is not a meal. It is not a meal replacement. I don't care what the box says, what they try to, like in 2 hours I'm hungry. And so I'll probably have, maybe, well, depending upon how my day is, I would probably have some quinoa with sliced avocado, and I might do a meat, maybe not. It just really depends on where I'm at. So that's pretty much like how my breakfast looks like. I have real meals, and sometimes I try to do the egg whites, but since going on this journey, I notice things that just work well for me and things that don't. Dairy is not my friend at all. It just makes me bloated, and I'm like, oh, okay, no. And also animal-based products aren't as good. Poultry is fine, but just kind of noticing that about me. And so, yeah, my breakfast smoothies are a staple. I always have them, no matter what. But then I definitely try to, for me, vegetables are hard. So if I can get them in, if I can drink them, I will. So anytime I'm drunk, especially when I make smoothies, I'm like, let's do 2 cups of whatever kind of green thing I can find, because I have to do stuff that's quick, and that's really quick. But when I'm more intentional, I do try to have like a grain. So like a quinoa, I try to have fats, because fats are really good, and good fats are even better. And so Avocados are a huge staple. Nuts are a huge staple. And sometimes, depending upon my stomach, I may have like an apple and almonds with hummus and vegetables, and that is like kind of that in between midday, you know, not necessarily breakfast, not necessarily lunch, but I'll have that kind of midday. And so for lunch, I'll have, you know, again, trying to get in greens, and so I'll have some type of grain or some type of vegetable. And maybe that's just sauteed bell peppers and onions, and that's all I can do. Because time is of the essence, and if I can cut 2 vegetables, that is a win for me. And so I'm cutting that up, and I may have that with tilapia, and then I might, you know, have another type of vegetable or side with it, or like mushrooms, because mushrooms are easy. I don't have to cut it up, I can just throw it in. I use mushrooms a lot. I'm like, oh great, I got a vegetable, I don't have to do much, that's all I'll have, you know, bell peppers and onions and mushrooms sauteed with tilapia. And so again, it's getting that variety in, and then of course I have chocolate. I have chocolate every day. I've done good, and I have dark chocolate. That was hard.
That's very hard. Yes.
But you know, what has worked for me with the chocolate is I'll do dark chocolate, but it has to have something else in it. So I'll do dark chocolate with cherries infused in it, or dark chocolate with almonds, or so. It has to have some. I can't do just plain dark chocolate. It will sit and sit and sit in their house and collect dust, and I don't know, do other weird things because I won't eat it. So I always make room for that. I always make room for my favorites, and so if you have like a favorite thing, I always make room for it. So again, I go back to French fries. Like, I am probably at Chick-fil-A at least 1 to 2 times a week to get a small fry, and it's typically after work because that's where I kind of de-stress and go in and get my fries, and it's heaven. It's heaven in a little white bag. Because I love it, and so I'm very intentional about making room for that.
Do you still write everything down?
You know, no, because I do it, you know, when I am when I'm feeling like, when I'm feeling a little tighter, and then I'm wondering, am I getting enough vegetables, or what am I missing from my diet? Because at one point I was getting tired, and I noticed, I said, well, man, like I eat so much during the day that by the time I get home, I'm not really that hungry, and then I go to sleep. Well, then I have to wake up at about 5:30 to go work out at 6, and that's nothing. Like, that means that's a whole time of nothing. And it's like, that's why I'm so tired. I'm like, I need to be intentional about eating something at night, even if it's like, you know, chicken and pasta, something. And so, yeah, when I notice significant changes in my mood or my level, and again, I think going back to your health journey should bring you into more mindfulness of who you are. Like, I know when something is out of alignment. I know when something isn't quite right. I know when I haven't been getting enough sleep. I know when I haven't been drinking enough water, because I feel my body will tell me. And I think that's the biggest thing about your journey, is that you should come to a point where you're like, my body's trying to tell me something. Your body, I think our bodies are always trying to tell us something. Like, hey, you know, you may want to lay off the sodas. You know, I think I have too much sugar, you know, and for me that means my head hurts, I feel a little more fatigued than usual. And so, yeah, I think that's been the coolest thing ever, is that, like, our bodies will tell us when things aren't right. It's a thing of slowing down and listening and being mindful.
Quiet enough to listen.
Yes, exactly. So,
who's your biggest supporter on campus?
Oh, wow, I think it's so many. I think it's like,
You don't have to name names, but
no, I mean, honestly, I think for me, it spans so many people. So, I mean, here at my job, like, my colleague, they're amazing, because they hired me in, and they always make these jokes about, like, you're literally not the same person that, like, you were, and you know, all of those things. And so they are great supporters for me, because they've been on it from the beginning. And you know, my supervisor and my colleague Justin, they're so awesome, and like, to have them come in and to be like, well, how was your workout, and did you do it, and all those other things. So that's pretty cool, and to kind of encourage them to kind of get on it. And it became kind of a fun game that they see what healthy things I brought today. So they would be like, so what did you bring us today? Because at one point I was experimenting with everything. I had boxes of seaweed. I had really interesting things. So that became like a little fun thing for us. So that's here at my job. But then like in terms of my friends have been awesome supporters, especially the ones who really know me and the ones who are really saying, okay, like, I'm checking in, where are you at? Where are you at with your workouts? Where are you at with your eating? And they confront me. They say things like last week I was with a friend and we were at Nagoya and we were eating sushi, and I just like ordered one sushi and I had edamame, and my friend turned to me and she was like, okay, where are you at? I noticed that you didn't eat a lot. And it's not, like, hey, you did it out. It's like, okay, I just want to see. I want to check in with you. Because I know that you can get busy, or I know, like, sometimes I'm so keen on, eating a certain way for a certain type of race or something like that, that I get lost into other things, like, am I really getting enough, and all these other things. And they totally keep me accountable. My workout group, I think, has been awesome. Let me tell you, I have had personal trainers, and I did not go, and I paid for them. It is easy for me to skip out on my personal training sessions. It is easy for me to skip out on my running training sessions because it's by myself. I rarely, if ever, miss a group workout session. We have a group text where we encourage each other, we cry, we pray for each other. That has, I think, in terms of the consistency and exercising, that has been tremendous. It's just something about, I work out hard when I'm with them versus when I'm by myself, because when I'm by myself, I do 10 push-ups and I'm done. The warm-up, I feel like, is the workout. But when I'm with my group, it's just such this level of high-spiritedness and sisterhood, and I get so much from that. And when it's 5:30 and I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it, they're like, get your butt up, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting in the bed, come on. And so I get there and I'm like 5 minutes late and I just hop right on in. That is so huge, because they also have been on this journey with me, at least for the last year or so, and that has been so huge. They were there when I crossed the finish line after doing my first half marathon, just cheering me on, and we're all crying and tears are like coming to our eyes, and they were just like, you couldn't run at all. And so now I'm doing this. That has been huge. I will also say, again, my church family has been really big, because they always remind me to bring in the spiritual component of just overall, health and understanding, and knowing that, like, I have to nourish all parts of me. And then also I would say, like, OSU, and I can't speak for other campuses, I have only been to one other campus other than this one, but I would say, like, the wealth of free resources that you get here as a student, and then also, of course, as staff and faculty, is tremendous. And even when there is a cost to it, to have a program for 3 months where you're getting personal training and being able to speak to a registered dietitian, like, I don't know where you can find it. That is expensive. 3 personal training sessions is $300, So, I mean, to be able to take advantage of programs like that and to have it readily available, like, was so huge. Again, I think that maybe people would do it if they had access, if they knew. I never knew it was a right or wrong way to working out. I never knew any of those things, and so all of those things were just so supportive for me.
Do you think you would have gotten here somewhere else?
I don't know. I really don't. I would like to say I hope I would have gotten to a point.
Maybe not as quickly, though.
Exactly. I think everything just kind of fell into place. And I remember my colleague saying that, he was just like, man, like, isn't it so awesome that, like, you came here and again, that's what I was saying, I don't know if I would have gotten this anywhere else, because at my school, it wasn't like this big push for wellness. We had it, like, we had an amazing recreation center, we had all the things that I think OSU has, but the intentionality of reaching people and just saying, okay, you can do it and you should do it and sign up and do these things. And so I think the spirit of OSU is definitely one of the wellness. I would say for the most part, my students drink water. I can see, and everybody has like their water container. And so wellness is such a huge thing here. And it's convenient. And they stay open so late. And they're open as early as 5:30 in the morning. I don't know if we want to get here any earlier than that, because I've been here that early and it's hard. But you know, the fact that they stay open, I mean, like, just all of the conveniences that you're afforded. So yeah.
So what's next on your goal list since you've done the half marathon? Are you going to do the Boston Sunday?
Oh no. I am thinking about doing the Tulsa 66 half marathon in November. And then I would like to eventually start training for a triathlon, because I would like to bike and swim as well, because I haven't done those things yet. I'm definitely afraid of swimming, but that's why I'm going to do it, because why not? I've done all these other things. And so I honestly would love to do the Memorial Run again, but I think I'm going to do a different race in the spring, and I'll probably do the Go Girl Run for women empowerment. And so it's one of them. So although the Memorial Run, I'm just going to do a really free plug. If you can do it, do it. It is amazing. It is awesome. It is a life-changing event and experience. Like, after running it, I said I would never do a half marathon just to do it. It always has to be connected to some cause. But to see those people out there saying, thank you for running for my child. Like, you running, you signing up for this race means that they're not forgotten. I was just crying. I'm like, I could barely breathe, and I could just see the beautiful posters and people coming up to me and handing water and saying, thank you so much for just running. Just for remembering my husband, my daughter, my significant other. And I was just like, it was so overwhelming.
How many miles did you run?
13.1.
Oh,
It was long.
that's long. How long did it take you?
2 hours and 40 minutes.
At a consistent pace, or were you just kind of
I was doing whatever I could do. So, sometimes it was a limp. Sometimes it was a walk. Sometimes it was a good steady jog. Sometimes I don't know how I got there. I just know that I did. But I was like, I'm here. And so again, that's why I want to do a few more to kind of, I know there's a finesse and there's a way to do it. My thing was I just need to, and at one point I said I may have to have someone roll me as long as I just keep moving. So yeah.
You get 2 fries that day.
Oh, you know I did. Oh, yes I did. And I did not work out for a week. I slept.
So
I slept. So if you ever just need a good sleep, you do that. You do 13.1 miles and you can sleep like a baby. So.
Well, how many's in your group, workout group?
Right now, typically there's been 5
Okay.
to 6. And yeah, so I think that's how many we have now. We have 4 this time. So we have a smaller group. But yeah, it's been nice. And 3 people tend to be consistent. We always tend to change out like 1 or 2 other people. But yeah, we even when some of our members can't come for whatever reasons, they may be more away, more semester than others, we stay in the same group. Like, we still have the same group chat and group message. And so yeah.
Switching topics a little bit, you said you were the first in your family to go, first generation
Yes.
to go.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of the other ones follow you since
No.
you're still the only?
My little sister, yes, she is going to the University of Pennsylvania. So I'm really proud of her. She's going to be amazing, and she's going to do amazing things. And so, yes, she is the next one.
And are you working on an EDD or PhD or
So
what?
at this point, I am working on my second master's degree in counseling,
Okay.
which has, okay, so I never thought that I would do that. And I was just, because, my next step was to, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just get my PhD. But, I fell in love with counseling because of my own journey. And 2, it's really what I do here. I got my master's degree in education. I don't really utilize that as much as I just utilize therapeutic techniques. And so I really love that, and I have adopted a new passion in reducing health disparities among impoverished populations, because there's a huge disparity in terms of educating, in terms of access, and so, and in terms of delivering services, the way that we deliver service to a rural population might look a little different if we go out to Oklahoma City and try to promote health there. So it's really understanding the culture and being able to, deliver those services in an appropriate way. And so that's kind of my new goal, and I think this is kind of where I'm going to stay, and I'm really excited because I've just been awarded a fellow, so I'm a fellowship for the National Board of Certified Counselors, and so that is what I'm charged with. As a fellow, I am charged with reducing mental health disparities on our campus, and so any pockets of students that may not have had proper education and training and just experiences, so we're working on a way to reduce that here. So, which I think is really cool, and it's really what I feel like all of that is really what I want to do. And so, yeah.
Well, your journey has been fascinating.
Thank you.
Really
This is so awesome, and to talk about it is so therapeutic. And I'm like thinking, man, I didn't say that. Oh my gosh, that, and to see how all of those things kind of put me where I am today, and ultimately what I get to do now through my fellowship and with the National Board of Certified Counselors.
And find a way to teach others how to be mindful.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an easy thing.
It is not. And let me tell you, I try to do it daily, but there are moments in the day where I am not. When I am running from one meeting to the next, when I have things to do, I'm like, what is edible in front of me? Or sometimes I'm so busy that I'll just kind of forget. And I'm like, okay. Then my body will give me a signal, and I'm like, okay, body, we're going to slow down. We're going to stop. It's going to get done, but it doesn't have to get done now. I need to go and take care of myself. And maybe that's just some deep breathing. Maybe that's just water. Maybe that is I need to actually eat. But that has been, it's hard. But it's so doable. And again, the victory comes in the choice. Just what I really had to learn.
Well, do you have a favorite quote or something that just you go to?
I think there are a number of things. I think I do, I think I do try to stay in a space where I am always in the present. And so I will say this thing, I'm like, I will never get this moment again. And so I'm going to sit in it, and I'm going to cherish it. And so that is one thing that I do. And so I try to use that in all aspects of my life. And granted, it's easier to say that. It's easier to say, I'm going to be mindful in this interview. I may never have this opportunity again. This is so awesome. Oh my gosh. It's different when I'm sitting at my desk and I have to put in paperwork and just say, oh, I would never have this time again. I'm like, oh, please let me never have this time again. But I think that's one of the things that I do. It has made my life richer to be in the present, to be in the here and now. I don't know when it's going to be the next time I see you. I hope I get to see you again soon. But to really sit in that. And again, I think that comes with my food, to be really just appreciative of my food, to be really appreciative and to understand that, one, there might be someone who doesn't have this opportunity, and two, I have the opportunity to nourish my body, and I have the opportunity, to feed myself. And so really being thankful, and that's what the present does for me. And again, with exercising, even when I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, but just really being in the moment and really being in present and saying, you know what, this is where I am. My body's going to feel great afterwards. It's going to be awesome afterwards. And so I think that is one of the biggest things that I try to do. So just being in that space. Also just, I think, repeating the mantra that, I am enough. If you cut off that tape right now, and, I just made a comment to my colleague. I said, Justin, oh my gosh, I almost ate a whole rotisserie chicken yesterday. I'm like, it took all day, but I did. I kind of nibbled on it all day. And then at the end, I was like, it's not a lot of that rotisserie chicken left. But, I think just still saying, I am enough. Hopefully not, but if I gain 20, 30 pounds, I'm still enough. I'm right now where I am enough. And so I say that often. I say, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And so I think I pull from a number of different things. So
No tattoo that says I am enough.
no, I'm not a tattooer. Nah.
Well, it seems like OSU is a very good match. And it's been a match good both ways.
Gosh.
Because you're sharing what you learned too and
OSU
with
has
others.
been an amazing match for me. It really has. The support here and just the opportunities here has been just totally amazing. I mean, I honestly don't know if I would have been able to do what I do and would have been able to be in a space that I'm in now. Don't know if I would have been able to get, the fellowship. And one of the reasons why I was awarded the fellowship is no one is really doing this in Oklahoma. And so that's, one of the biggest pulls and draws. We're like, we were so excited that we got someone from Oklahoma because we're trying to get people from the 50 states, and we're excited that you were interested in doing and partnering with us. And so, yeah, definitely, I think OSU has given me so many opportunities, and it's just been really awesome. I'm just so thankful for everybody that's came in and helped, that sent an encouraging email, that, tell me, hey, you should think about trying this. Hey, do you want to do this? And so, yeah, it's been awesome.
America's healthiest campus. I think that's what they're aiming for.
And they are, and I will say that they are. I definitely would say that because it's definitely encouraging. It's an encouraging atmosphere. It's not one that's, they don't force you. It's definitely holistic, even in their approach, even in the wellness, the Sarrington Wellness Center. It's like eating, and it's like yoga, and it's like sleeping well, and it's like all of those different things. So I would encourage anybody, like if they don't know where to start, go to the Sarrington Wellness. They can talk to Cindy, who sits at the front desk, and she's really nice, because I ask her all the questions, and she'll get you plugged in, and she'll get you a place to start.
We should probably say how much you've lost.
Yes, so I have lost now, oh gosh, I don't know. Well, at the time I first did the first interview, I had lost 100 pounds. Since being here, I came here fall of 2013, I want to say, and so yeah, I have lost 100 pounds since then. Probably a little bit over after the marathon, because that really, yeah. So yeah, at this point, probably roughly about 115 pounds, and so.
Almost another person.
Oh gosh, yeah, that is another person.
But then in the other sense, you found the other person.
Yeah.
Along the way, so kind of.
So yeah.
It's a win-win.
It is, and so. Man, it has been a long journey, but such an amazing journey. And so any new thing that you're doing, just embrace the journey. It's going to have bumps, it's going to have bruises, it's going to have setbacks, but it is so worth it to just keep that steady pace. And that's all that I ever try to do, is to keep that steady pace and to look for things that excite me and that propels me forward. And so that's why I always want to try new and different things. I've never been much of a rock climber, but I'm going to take some classes and learn how to see if I like it. If that may not be, I've tried things that are not my thing, like Zumba, but I'm just all dive in and just enjoy life. Life is so short, and we should just just dive in and be plugged in and be present and be in the moment. And just, again, I would say it all goes back to enjoying every single victory that we have, and whether that's in your health, in your career, in your relationships, that's what I wanted to do, and it's just been so helpful for me.
I think this will be helpful for others who listen to
I
it
hope
too.
so. And it doesn't matter where you're from. Clearly, I came from an impoverished background where we really didn't know a lot about health and about fitness, and it doesn't matter whether you have an eating disorder, whether you've been big all your life. Change can come. Change can come. So.
I very much appreciate you sharing your journey with us.
Oh yes,
it's been a pleasure.
definitely. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
And you are awesome.